Hey guys, so here's the erlprinz box. Pretty basic. Comes with a little screwdriver, Allen key. The Allen key is for the base pin, which is non-adjustable. But compared to the Erl-Koenigen, which uses a regular screwdriver there. So that's one little bit of difference. These little airflow grooves in the base of the erlprinz are spread apart more than the Erl-Koenigen tank. You can see on the Erl-Koenigen how they're closer, those little grooves. Beside that, they're identical pretty much. You can see that the finishes are slightly different. You know, the Erl-Koenigen has like a media blasted finish, where the erlprinz is just a basic stainless steel finish. From here for the erlprinz, if you haven't seen a review on the Erl-Koenigen, I'll put a link in the description. I did a review on the Erl-Koenigen a month or so ago. If this is the first time you've seen, you know, any one of these products, it's quite different. You have a drip tip that's threaded, and it threads over the chimney. The chimney extends all the way through the top cap with threads on the end of the chimney, and the drip tips have threads on the inside. And that little bit right there is threaded, and the drip tip threads onto there and puts pressure on this top cap and holds it down. So drip tip off, this top bit right here spins around and then exposes the fill holes, as you can see there. A little turn closes them off, and you tighten down the drip tip. So it feels real nice. It's a great feature. Don't need a screwdriver or anything. That comes off, and now you have your top cap, which then furthermore comes off. There's your two fill holes there, and then this exposes the inside of your tank here. Your chimney then comes off of your base like such, and you have a regular polycarbonate tank there, and then your base. So just some differences with the erlprinz to the Erl-Koenigen. Same drip tip, unscrews. One difference right away on the Erl-Koenigen is this piece here. This little top cap thing. On the Erl-Koenigen, this piece here has two metal legs that come out. So when you put your little top cap thing on to expose your fill holes, they're open, and then it turns a quarter turn and then hits that little metal bar and doesn't turn anymore. So it goes open and closed and stops. On the erlprinz, this top cap just keeps spinning and spinning around, and the drip tip holds it in place once it's in the right spot, so it doesn't move. But also on the Erl-Koenigen, that little extra bit of metal helps with unscrewing the top cap underneath this part here. It acts like a little tool to unthread it off the chimney top. Whereas with the erlprinz, this just keeps spinning, so you need to really get a good grip on that to unscrew it off the chimney, or you know, use some tweezers in the holes. So one little difference there, not a big deal. Beside that, the chimneys are interchangeable. The Erl-Koenigen will fit on the erlprinz base, and the erlprinz base will fit on the erlprinz chimney will fit on the Erl-Koenigen base. So for those like me who bought an erlprinz, bought a Erlkönigen Nano, little chimney, little tank. So the Erlkönigen Nano fits on the erlprinz, which is great. I love this little guy. For like 27 euros, 30 some odd dollars, I got a Nano erlprinz. The bases, the Erlkönigen comes with this little ring, which I guess if you're using silica, it kind of holds the wick, which goes down this little channel, holds it in place. I don't even use it. I use rayon or cotton, so you know, it's supposed to do other things, but I don't even use this. But the erlprinz doesn't come with that at all. Both of the bases have the same airflow AFC disc. The more you tighten this Delrin, the tighter the draw gets. There again, I like an open draw. I don't even use the Delrin AFC discs at all. So, but they're nice if you want a little tighter, a little more open draw. The bases are a little different. From the coil down, there is a positive pole, the main airflow chamber that connects all the way from the bottom to the top. That is not interchangeable. These 510 threads are, you know, one won't fit into the other one. So there's some differences there. If you have an Erlkönigen, you know the draw that on that positive pole is 1.6 millimeters stock. Erlkönigen also sells an upgraded positive pole that has a 2 millimeter opening for a more of a draw. Well, the erlprinz stock has a 2 millimeter positive pole. It's not the same, and they're not interchangeable, but yes, the erlprinz stock has a bigger airflow hole than the Erlkönigen. You got 2 millimeters and 1.6, but you can get an upgraded 2.0 for the Erlkönigen, but it's not the one that comes in the erlprinz. So that's your differences, you know, on each one. And let me show you a build. So here's up close a little bit on the erlprinz deck. You got your juice channel, your wick channel there. I got a coil in this one here. It's a 26 gauge, about 0.8. When you make these coils, you need to wrap them around whatever you're using in a clockwise direction for those to connect to the posts. I got a about 2 millimeter diameter. I found that diameter just works the best in the Erlkönigens and the erlprinz. But as you could see, I mean, the machining is nice. I mean, you know, not quite as nice as the Erlkönigen, but overall build quality is pretty good. You know, it gives you a lot of room to work with on the deck. You know, pretty easy build. Whatever your mandrel is for your coil, you know, in my case, like I say, it was a 2 millimeter drill bit, which this isn't, but you just simply attach your coil and it'll rest on those shoulders and kind of lock itself there while you tighten up your posts. You got your chimney. Doesn't have the fancy little cutouts as the Erlkönigen. It's just all basic. There's your chimney. You can see this little O-ring there, which you want to be careful when you wash everything. Basically, that fits into the bottom of that. And, you know, you can keep it on there while assembling, or you could take it off and it kind of presses into the bottom of that. Sometimes it stays in there, sometimes it stays in there, but it's easy to lose that guy. And that's it. Here's your basic things that you get from your erlprinz. Those are what you get. Now, as I mentioned before, the chimney comes up and your drip tip threads onto it. It's so your regular drip tips won't work. You can this is the basic one that comes with it, or you can order some nice ones that they have. Or if you like your own, you can buy this. This is a drip tip adapter. It's sold with the Erlprinz, and basically that does the screwing on part, and then you can you know, whatever drip tip you got, you can snap into that. Alright guys, so here's a bit of rayon right here. As far as I know, most of them come in a long coil, all the same density and thickness as this. I bought a box of 500 foot long of this coil, so it's a good starting point when trying to explain how much to use, because it all is pretty much consistent in this manner right here. I cut a piece about 4 or 5 inches off the coil, and I just know from my 2mm atomizer coil that I use about half of this. So I go ahead and, you know, take this piece. You want to, you know, go ahead and flatten it out as much as you can, and then I'll go ahead and cut half of that right down the center. Obviously this amount's going to you know, be determined on how wide your coil is. Like I say, I'm using 2mm. If you're going bigger, you're going to use a bigger piece. So you know, you go ahead, actually I like the other side. So there's about half of that coil, and now from here you want to just go ahead and try to form it. You want it consistently, you know, the same all the way across. You know, this is 3 times the length that I actually need, so this side right here just feels a little weak. You know, I'm going to go ahead and shred that off. That middle bit's a little thick. You just want to go ahead and form that until it's, and stretch it. I like stretching this rayon and forming it, and taking off the uneven bits. You want to get to a piece that's really consistent all the way across. That feels pretty good. It's, you know, pretty consistent all the way across. There's no weak points in it. You know, it's stretched and formed, and then from there you just want to go ahead, lick that end so you can pull it through the coil. And with rayon, you know, it's not going to expand like cotton does. If anything, it shrinks a little bit. So we'll go ahead and pull that through. And you want to get a bit of resistance as you're pulling this through the coil. I find, let me zoom in a little bit here. I find the right amount, if I'm pulling this through here, it's bunching up too much on this side. It's a little too thick. So I like to help it out by twisting this side up a little bit, which gets me to a little neck section. I go ahead and twist it up a little bit more and pull it through again. Twist it up, pull it through. And it's almost to the point where if you don't twist that side while pulling it through, you're almost tweaking that coil. So good bit of resistance pulling that through. Once you get it through, try to twist it all back. You want all those fibers running the same way. And then you want to work that little spot where it comes to rest. You want to pull that back and forth a few times. So she's bunched up on both sides of that coil pretty good. So that feels like a pretty good wick right there. I'm going to go ahead and trim off to about 1 inch on both sides. And that coil's settling down, the wick's settling down pretty nice on both sides of the coil edge. There's a good bit of resistance pulling that through, but you can definitely add too much as well. I mean, you pack that rayon too tight, you're going to definitely get a muted flavor. If you don't put enough in there, you're going to get some dry hits. It needs to be full contact with that coil. Alright, so I got, about 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch of wick on both sides. If you look at the coil, you can see that both sides of the wick look pretty even in the thickness of the shoulders there. Okay, and then when I make a cut, I basically look at the wick tail as a circle and bisect it right down the center. And that's where I make my first cut, right down the center of the wick tail towards the coil. But I stop. You don't want to cut all the way up against your coil. You stop at the end of the channel arm where it comes down in your channels. So you make that cut right to that point and then cut it straight off. So that whole top of the wick is cut off right there. Okay, so that leaves your bottom. Your bottom tail. And what I do is I shave, I make a cut on one side and the other, leaving the center. Same thing, you want to go ahead and make a cut to that point where the channel arm is. And cut that bit off. And then a little bit more on the other side. And then cut that off. And then you can see what you're left with. You're left with a little wick tail, which isn't much. You don't need a lot of wick going down these channels at all. In fact, that's probably even a little bit too much. So go ahead and trim off even some more of that. So the bulk of the shoulder shouldn't really go beyond the outside of this, which here it does. So you want to go ahead and try to trim the bulk of the tails back. There you go. So you got the bulk of your shoulder in line with the juice channel arm with a little, you could see how fibrous that those threads are. There's not much right there. And that's what's going to go down your juice channel. So I'll repeat this from the other side, and we'll juice it up and put her back together. Alright guys, so I got her all trimmed up. You can see the fluff on the shoulder height, which in this device is really works good with these little high shoulders. The bulk of the shoulder is even with the channel arms, and I think with the reason why these shoulder heights work so well is that when the chimney goes on, the actual wick shoulders press up against, the top of that, kind of sealing it off. I don't know why it's better that way, but it is. When that wick, slightly touches the top of that chimney and seals it, it makes for a really nice vape. So that's it. That's how, you know, I do the wicks on these, and you know, it works really well. There's some that don't even put these little wick tails down in the channels. They just cut the whole wick off, even with the shoulder there, and it works fine. So go ahead and saturate this up. I like to keep the bulk of the wick, you know, within those arms. And go ahead and press these little wick tails. I mean, you can see the size of these little tails compared to the juice channels. They're tiny. And, you know, you can cut them down, you know, to about, you know, they're halfway up. It's not that important, like I say, because some of them are running them without those at all. Press them down in there. And you just don't want a bulk of wick at the very top of this juice channel. You got your full shoulder up here, and from that full shoulder I got a tiny little tail running all the way. It's not wedge shaped. You want to leave this very top of this arm clear and not a lot of wick right at that point. I think that's an important thing. If you kind of wedge this wick tail from skinny to wide at the top, you can put too much in that little spot right there. Now that juice has been saturating on that wick for a little while, and one way I can tell if I have too much rayon in this point, maybe you can pick this up. As I take this needle, and I'll go ahead and press it on one side of the shoulder, forcing it through the coil. And if I can see the other side moving, it shows me that I gotta, you know, I don't have too much. If you're gonna sit there and press this wick through and it doesn't budge, you got too much. So yeah, that's it, guys. A little movement in that wick tail through the coil makes me feel like it's not jammed in there too much. Like I say, if you can't budge it, you're going to have too much rayon in there. Another thing that I notice when I have too much rayon is when I go to rebuild the wick, and one side looks really dark compared to the other one. It tells me that, you know, I had probably too much rayon in there, or not enough. Rayon's funny, you need some full contact in there, but once you get it right, it really is a great wick. Another little thing I do, and I don't know if it makes a difference, but I'll take a little piece of rayon like that, little piece, and I actually stuff it on the inside of underneath the arm, or underneath the wick tail, right next to the airflow hole, underneath. Kind of puts a little bit more wicking material right up underneath that shoulder right there, up against the arm, the underneath side of the arm. And I actually stuff a little piece in there. Just don't want to cover the airflow hole. And I actually do that on both sides. You know, instead of making the wick tails higher on the top, it kind of makes them more substantial on the bottom side of it. Just a couple little plugs up underneath the wick shoulder on the bottom, up against the deck. And that's my finished build. One last thing, I've been using this little, blunt tip needle that I use a lot. It's 1.22 millimeters, and I find that the perfect height distance between the coil and the air hole. It's just worked out, the best for me. And that's the Nano Earl Konigan Nano kit. So we're going to have a erlprinz short tank. Go ahead with your top cap. We got to get the little O-ring on there. Alright, got the little top cap back, the little O-ring back on there. We'll go ahead and screw on the fill hole, top hole. And let me get some juice and we'll fill her up, guys, and finally vape it. Turn that top cap closed. Tighten up the drip tip. And that's it. The Nano erlprinz. That's it, guys. The erlprinz grade atomizer. And that rayon build works good because it allows you to put more rayon in there, more wicking material in there to get those slightly higher shoulders. That's it, the erlprinz with the rayon build.